Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Anime Watch Club, a bi-weekly group discussion and review where the hosts of the WDYSA anime podcast nominate and vote on shows either we haven't seen or shows that hopefully lead to a great conversation. On today's episode, the I Get Why Furries Exist Coming Arounders of the WDYSA anime podcast, we'll be reviewing the 2008 anime Spice and Wolf. Let's meet today's drug dealers. I mean, pharmaceutical merchants. First up, he is the peddler from another meddler. We got Carolina's largest illegal panther trader. We got Kat. Kat, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Speaking of your intro, I got a message earlier today about me sending a server link in a furry Discord, which I'm not in, and they threatened
Sure.
to hit me with like 5 years of of a felony. I could send you a screenshot of it. It's weird.
Wink twice if you're actually in that Discord.
No.
You just blink twice. For our audio listeners. Our first
Yeah.
writer tonight, from watching Spice and Wolf, he has now shorted all of his shares in the podcast. We have Miles. Miles, how's it going?
It's going good. I'm pretty confident about the bet.
As am I. And Pat.
What's this bet? I missed out on it.
Shorting is like a stock bet where
Oh,
you
you mean like just the shorting bet?
Yeah.
like I'm
sorry.
confident on
Okay, sorry. I misinterpreted it, which ruins the joke. So my bad, guys. But yeah, so let's talk about Spice and Wolf, the 2008 anime. Looks like it was the winter of 2008 that it aired in. It's done by Studio Imagine with no E, which has never produced another show that's worth mentioning or discussing. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to watch or to discuss the show at least, but let's do our usual first impressions, first 3 episodes, whatever you got, what you thought coming into it, maybe if that changed at all, and then would you recommend this show? Miles, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so I God, this is gonna be such a fucking loser statement. The way I know of Spice and Wolf is because I closely follow the Reddit Best Girl competition every year. You know, bunch of people really like Hollow on that, and I was like, I must inform myself on this Hollow, and so I started reading the manga, and I was like, wow, this or manga is boring, and I stopped reading it. But then I was like, I want to win the the show. I want to do that, and so I nominated Spice and Wolf, and I was like, maybe I'll like it more, and then I didn't. Um, and that's I shouldn't say I didn't like it more. I probably did like it more. But did I like it? Meh. Um those are my thoughts. Would I recommend this? No. Not really. It's this is like I'm sure in like 2008 when there was like 6 other teamed arrays, Hollow seemed great and everything. But we're in 2023. It's been done and iterated upon. It's it's I don't know. I don't like the show.
What dere did you use? I'm sorry.
Him?
Heme?
Yes.
What is that? Can you translate for us?
Like she's like
Uncultured?
I think a Hime is like princess, but she's like haughty and like self-important and like
Gotcha. Interesting. Oh yeah, Heme. Yeah, duh. Okay, that makes sense. Interesting. So, yeah, so you would not to anyone. You wouldn't recommend this to anybody?
um okay, like I don't know, maybe season 2 like knocks up the romance aspect of it. Like as of now, like I guess I understand why it's called a romance because Hollow's like, "Oh my god, please have sex with me." And Lawrence is like, "No." But he doesn't even say no. He just like fails to acknowledge anything. Much like an anime protagonist would. I guess he like kind of acknowledges. I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we can
Um,
talk about that later.
I don't know. If you know that you'd like Spice and Wolf, watch Spice and Wolf. I'm not going to recommend it to you though. Other people can recommend it to you. I'm not going to do that though.
That's fair. I respect that take. I like that. I'm not gonna recommend it, but if someone else does, then go for it.
Yeah.
Which is a way of recommending it in its own indirect way, I guess. But so yeah, Miles recommends Spice and Wolf. Kat, what about you?
He does not.
Uh, I, on the other hand, I do recommend it. Now, my story behind Bison Wolf is that I haven't watched Bison Wolf. This is my first time watching Bison Wolf, right? Um, but Holo has been my waifu for 2 years because of a because of a picture that I saw a while ago, and I've been meaning to watch it, or read it or something, and, I'm glad that it delivered so that I didn't have to get rid of it, uh, because I really actually enjoy this show. I don't think it's boring at all. I think that it's a really enjoyable show, and I actually enjoy the interactions between characters and just it feels like a good it is a good show to, like, sit back and watch for me binging it, but, yeah, I really enjoy that. But to your point, I don't really understand why you would, not recommend it, but
So no, wait, sorry. So you would or would not recommend it?
no,
Sorry,
I'm I I'm
you
I'm
would,
saying to
right?
Miles, I don't understand why you would not recommend it, but
Well, that's why Miles does recommend it. So perfect. All right, Pete,
cool.
what about you, buddy?
So this is my second time watching it. I think I watched it like 3 years ago, and I think I know why Miles doesn't like this because he is clouded in the season that was Winter 2028, which also included his favorite show, Rosario Vampire. So I think he's having some judgment issues weighing like what's good and what's not good. But for me, I'm like a finance major. I did like econ shit, and I love like the banter that they had throughout this show with trade and merchants and tariffs and smuggling and all that like jazz, along with just being like a pure story or character driven story plot of just going from town to town and finding out which next merchant adventure they're going to go on. If the two characters like didn't have great chemistry, I think this show would like legit be a 2. But because the chemistry between Hollow and Lawrence is, I would say, pretty good, I was just entranced by it. I even started season 2 after finishing season 1. That's how much I enjoyed it. Would I recommend this? If you like the farmland arc currently in Vinland Saga, I would recommend Spice and Wolf 2 because it's a lot of talking. It's a lot of developing like maybe plot situations that maybe aren't life or death, but just being entranced with the characters and the cast and the world and what they're doing. I was fully on board. So yeah, I would recommend it.
Yeah. All right. And looking at Winter 2008, man, anime sucked.
Yeah.
The next thing is True Tears, which I don't even think I've ever even heard of, and nothing else I really recognize other than maybe like a sequel to Aria that looks like I think down there. I don't know, man. We are so blessed nowadays with all the shows that we get. My knowledge of Spice and Wolf has always been around really just knowing who Hollow was. I had no idea that there was more than two characters in this show really that actually like have relevance to the plot or you can expect to see more than once when he's walking around and doing trading. I expected going in for there to be a little bit more interacting with different cultures or different people, because I almost went in expecting it to be similar, like Wandering Witch of Elena, where Elena goes from town to town and experiences different, really cultures. So like it would almost be like going from the northeast of the U.S. to the south, or going from Germany to Russia, or whatever. Like that's what I was expecting more of. Versus this, it seems to be more stay almost like you were staying within the same area. Like the people, the different towns are hard to differentiate. It's really more about the merchant work that's going on, right? And so I didn't enjoy that aspect as much as I guess I expected, but uh Hollow and Lawrence are very, very entertaining together. I like their dialogue a lot. Their chemistry, like Miles kind of highlighted, is a little bit of just Hollow being like, I want you, and him being eh, whatever. But I think it's also him just being respectful of her and trying not to let his vision get clouded by his love or his appreciation for Hollow. Because at the end of the day, you wouldn't let someone like this travel with you if you didn't care about them or want or have interest in them. So I would say I would recommend this to people who like romance or who are interested in seeing one of the most famous waifus in anime culture. Really, like I'd recommend that. Similar to Pete though too. Like I don't know, like I have friends who are not enjoying the Vinland Saga farming arc, the wheat arc, and so I would not recommend this to people like that. You know, I would not recommend this to people who are looking for action. I would only recommend it really to romance people, or again, people who just want to see why Hollow is such a big deal. You'll know if you like the show after 3 episodes. It really doesn't change much. You'll know. So yeah, all right. So 4 recommendations across the board from us. Totally. You know,
Agenda over
uh,
facts for sure.
Yes,
it's
sir.
not my. It's not even my agenda either. I said maybe recommend it. So 2.5 recommendations we'll say for this show out of 4. So that's pretty good. Yeah, let's get into the spoilers, which aren't too important, I wouldn't say really, but still relevant. So spoilers for Spice and Wolf season 1 going forward from here. I'll go first though. I kind of just touched on it with my first impressions, but I think the real strength of this show is the dialogue and the chemistry between Hollow and Lawrence. And I watched this dubbed, by the way. I don't know how much of a difference that would make, but for me, I went in almost expecting a dub to be bad just because it's an older one and it wasn't Dragon Ball, right? But it was pretty good. And by pretty good, I mean like great. I thought the chemistry between the two voice actors was very impressive, and I think my favorite part of the show is when Hollow and Lawrence are playing a little bit of the flirting game, a little bit of the testing each other, feeling each other out a bit, trying to see what the other person is thinking because they both have their moments of brilliance, I guess, within their I don't know what do you call it, the negotiation or merchant work, whatever like that. They each have their moments where they are more right than the other person, but they try to help the other person figure it out rather than just straight up telling them. I don't know. How did you guys feel about the dialogue?
I loved it personally. It was really funny because just because of this group, there was something that was coming into my head the entire time I was watching this, and I wasn't sure if I should say this, but to me, they're just like an adult Ryuji and Taiga. To be honest, I thought the chemistry was like that, where Lawrence was. I mean, like Hollow is much more the aggressor of the relationship, maybe less physical but more emotional damaging, I feel like, because she teases with Lawrence a lot, and I don't know if Lawrence knows how to handle those situations. But I thought their dialogue was super fun, and it reminded me a lot of those two, and I think that's why I resonated with it, because that's one of my favorite shows of all time. And when you have two characters that I love their banter back and forth, whether it's playful or romantic or in some cases serious, because season 1 doesn't really touch on it a lot, but kind of Hollow's um I guess her past trauma of being left alone really scares her, and that's kind of why she gravitates to Lawrence like immediately. And yeah, I really enjoyed like their dialogue and their chemistry a lot.
Dropping the show 2 points now because you
Oh,
compared it
Oh
oh
to
man.
no.
Toradora.
Oh
No,
no.
I'm kidding.
Well,
It's it's the same.
It's
Go
one
well,
ahead, Kat.
point.
Yeah,
let me let me try and help you. I also really enjoyed the banter back and forth, but for me, a lot of the enjoyment came from just the development of how like strife kind of split them apart and still brought them back together. Some of the things that happened, if you're listening to us and haven't watched it, is basically like twice Polo becomes the wolf version of herself, and twice that basically scares the crap out of Lawrence. And the first two times Lawrence can't really do anything uh because he's frozen in fear, and Hollow, like you can see Hollow become very like downtrodden because of it, and she ends up leaving for a little for a good amount of time. Uh but I enjoyed their how those moments ended up bringing them back together because of how, it showed the development of like actually liking each other, and understanding that, hey, this is not just a fair weather relationship, I guess you could say. That's one of the reasons why I liked it.
Miles, you were shaking your head.
I mean, I don't know. I just like. I guess I don't have like like I get why people like it, right? Like it's like witty, and they do the wit thing, and like in Hollow does the thing where she tells him exactly what to say to make her happy, and then he does. I don't know. It's just to me, Lawrence seems like he's like a pretty mid to maybe upper mid, like salesman or whatever. And Hollow is the god of economics, apparently. um, I don't know. I just like I get the repertoire that they have is like, this might sound weird, immediately too good. Like it's just very like I guess like if you have this woman who's been like away from people for centuries, who's like slowly being neglected by like the town that she's from and everything, and then you have this like guy who like very clearly can't take a hint, right? Like they like added a whole character to show that he can't take a hint or something. And to me it was just sort of like they existed in order to be like a banter delivery service, and that sort of took away from it from me, because there's a lot of anime and just media in general, right, where like it's quippy and everything, but like I don't know, I would have liked some build up or some substance or something, right? Like not to give this couple credit, but you can see Ryuji and Taiga's relationship grow over time in the way that they interact with each other, as much as that grosses me out. Um,
Well, you can see the abuse finally wear on Ryuji, right?
yes,
When
you
you
can
see
see
that.
him slowly succumb to Stockholm syndrome.
Yes.
He's a One Piece
But
fan.
he's
Yeah.
but like to me, that's like I get why people like it, but I would have liked to. I just don't think that there's like a lot of development there. I think that they start and they're already like in like perfect stride of their like their witty repertoire and everything, and that's sort of how it goes. There's like some bumps along the way or whatever, but um like that really annoyed. We can talk about it later if we want to, but like when Hollow did the whole like, oh, it's my fault that you can't do the thing, and I was like, yeah, but he like said it was your fault. Like, be mad at him. But she was like, you should be mad at me. He was mad at you. That did happen. It wasn't really rational. Like, I get that he was upset and everything, and it shouldn't be like the end of the world or whatever, because like he's gonna die in a day or whatever. He's gonna be like a slave boy because he. Okay, how did this even happen? He took payment
Yeah,
of
you want me to
arms.
explain?
Can you explain that? Thank
Okay,
you.
so essentially, I was trying to think of how I could describe this in like modern terms.
Yes.
So think of it as if you bought stock in, say, let's say FTX to be
Sure.
topical.
Why
But
would you ever do that?
But
Well, wink, wink.
instead of using your own cash, you went to a bank and got a loan. And you took that
Okay.
money that the bank gave you to you, and then you put it into FTX. And then FTX is like, "See you, nerd. Thanks for the money." And you're like, and then the bank called you, and the bank's like, "Hey, we need the money in 2 days." And you're like, "Ah, shit. Like, what do I gotta do?" So that's kind of what happened, where he took out a credit for arms, essentially, and then the arms market collapsed. And then the people, the trading company realized that, like, I think we kind of see that they're in trouble too, because they probably fucked up somewhere along the way with the arms trading. They're like, okay, we owe debt too, so we need to collect money from everybody that we can. So Lawrence, you
Yeah.
have 2 days to give us money. And then Lawrence is like, well, shit, guess I'm gonna start smuggling gold. And then he turned to a life of crime. And then that's where we started our villain arc.
Okay. Can I ask a question then?
Yes.
So arms have, like, everyone was like aware that arms were like worthless, right?
Yes.
So, but he pays his tax in goods. So they take some of his arms from him to pay the tariff to bring the goods into the city, correct?
You lost me there, but for the sake of being for the podcast, I will
Yes.
believe what you said.
They do. They take 2 sets of
Okay.
arms.
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, if arms are incredibly deflated, shouldn't Lawrence have been tipped off by the amount of arms they were taking for tax, since he was paying his tax, which is presumably a percentage or like a fee of some sort, like
It could be like a flat fee where it's just like 2 arms is the tax or something like that. I don't know if it's like a percentage. It's the I don't know the economics of whatever period this would be, but I feel like it could be.
okay.
I don't know if it's like a
So-
flat tax or if it's a percent or something like that. But I think for the sake
yeah.
of being for the world that they're in, I think it's safe to assume it's just like a flat tax.
I interpreted it as them getting payback for the sake of the guy that he basically stole from, or not stole from, but guilted into giving him all of that credit, so to speak, the credit, which is the arms, because he figured out that the guy was trying to manipulate them by using like a faulty scale or a tipped scale and trying to get them drunk and everything else like that. Basically, he bullied the guy into giving him a ton of arms for nothing or for almost nothing. And then that guy probably ran and bitched and moaned and cried to his
I
supervisor
feel
or
like the
something.
lengths that they went to kind of do what they did to Lawrence wasn't on the same level of just like fucking over somebody, even though that guy was trying to fuck over Lawrence
Yeah.
with the scale.
No,
we
I
see
agree.
that the trading house is in financial trouble. Like,
So,
Hans is like freaking out towards the end after Lawrence returns because they even screwed him over when they did the whole gold trading when they went to the other town where the guy said that he had like 600 whatever in gold and realized it was just like 6 of it and the other 5 6 were just a bag of rocks. So there's a lot of just like manipulation of like who had money, who didn't have money. The house needed them to pay their debts or they were screwed. Lawrence needed to pay his debts or he was screwed. There's just like a lot of people getting into a lot of financial trouble all at the same time.
Yeah, convenient that they didn't kill him, by the way, right? When they just could have killed him, and they said, no, it would be more trouble for us to kill him rather than letting him die to the wolves, because that's how that works, right?
It's
Like,
less guilt. They didn't kill him. The wolves did.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
so
Well,
so
I don't
here's-
think they're bankers. They're not like
Yeah, they're
murderers.
not
Like I
murderers,
think that's
Because they even said like they were sorry for what they were doing. Like, but it's like, it's just business. Like, sorry, dude. Like, we don't want to do this, but we need money too. So I feel like they felt a little bit of guilt doing
couldn't
what they
Lawrence
did.
have waited like a week for that institution to go bankrupt and then just not owed his debt to anyone?
Yeah, they
No.
probably would have gotten him done something with him before that. I think there's like a heavy there's a lot of strength. I guess this is like a season 2 thing, but like
Okay.
you see the importance of contracts and how they're upheld in their society. Where like it's more than just like your word is your bond. It's like your word is your life, or sorry,
Okay.
your contract is your life. So even if they do go bankrupt, I feel like they would still like whoever they owed money to would probably just take Lawrence
would
as
assume
yeah.
the debt or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
because
yeah.
you kind of see him leverage that fact, right? Where he's basically like, "Look, you tricked me, but I literally cannot pay you, so you should go in with this on me because otherwise you're not getting any money."
Yeah,
Like,
smart.
sure, yeah, which is
I gotta respect the hustle though. The gamble that he took. Real dumb, but if it paid off, it would be a huge success. Which is, God, I want to talk about season 2 so bad because you think Lawrence would learn from this experience of not taking a credit or a gamble with credit, but psych, season 2 he does it again, and I respect the hell out of him.
You would also think like, major banks in the United States and in the world would also learn to not gamble with credit, but here we are,
You thought.
You would have thought, right? Like, so it's almost
so.
like they
What you're
don't.
telling
It's
me
like they
is
don't
that
get punished. It's like they don't get punished for doing it over and over again.
Mhm.
So Hollow is a representation of what is it?
a government bailout.
Yeah, the government bailout. So that's who Hollow is in this whole story, which makes sense because she's literally God or a god, right? So it always it's an allegory for the United States, everybody. Wow, Spice and Wolf, 10 out of 10. Holy moly. Sorry. It's a terrible bit because it's fucking sad, and it's why we've had economic crises after crises. But
No,
you know what?
that's part of the show. Is like, the taking on more money than like the housing market that we collapsed in, like, what was that, oh 08 or whatever, 09?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a different commodity. It's the same thing where you're over the supply is just like way too much, and then it's like, guess what? We don't need all these houses, boom, or whatever, However, watch The Big Short. I don't know what I'm saying, but it's that idea of just like,
It's
yeah, this
giving a bunch of people
happens.
who can't afford their mortgages in order to like inflate your numbers,
Yeah,
and
that's what it is.
then turns out that they can't pay back the mortgages, but you've sold the mortgages, so you're not responsible. And then,
Yeah, it's that, but with swords and spice.
okay, what he should have done was start a war
Yeah.
That would have been genius. Yeah.
to, in order to inflate the value of his product.
That's honestly where I thought the story was going at that point. That would have been really wild. Just I thought it would have been like instigation between uh the city that it was in and the pagan city, and starting like a religious war in order to drive up the arms market. That would have been a really interesting story point.
I feel like the pagans would just get absolutely smoked, though. Like,
Oh,
you see how much control the church has on, like, these cities with huge walls, and you have to pay a tax to enter the city, and then the pagans is like, we worship a wolf. It's like, okay, meet flame arrows or something like that. Like, these get destroyed in a battle.
I mean, absolutely, but I mean, if Lawrence
Saw the
is
pagan
trading a lot
fleet.
of these arms to for like wheat and things that will eventually eventually become more valuable, like he could probably end up trading that very quickly.
Maybe hot take. I'm glad Loris's moral compass is a little bit like, hey, I'll smuggle gold, but I don't want to start a war.
I also enjoy that too.
Yeah. He doesn't really seem
he's
like like he would assassinate like an archduke of some sort of, of some
Yeah,
paganism countryside land or whatever.
yeah,
He's a pussy.
absolutely.
Oh, no, he's a cuck for sure. That's season 2 spoilers.
Wait, what?
It happens in season 1.
I cannot wait to talk about season 2 with you guys after this, but
I'll give it a 10 if he legitimately gets cucked. Like if Hollow just dates someone else, I'll give it a 10.
maybe you should watch season 2. That's all I'm
That's
saying.
fucking
That's
great.
insane.
Why does Reddit like it so much then? Anyway,
NTR's art? I don't know.
that's not
Even
really-
Reddit understands quality.
it's
Because Hollow exists?
yeah, fair enough.
Exactly.
Maybe that's why the season 2 has a lower score than season 1.
I think it has a
It's
higher score,
higher,
doesn't
it's
it?
higher by 0.2.
Oh, am I looking at the wrong thing?
Yeah, probably.
I'm looking at the movie. Oh, the OVA.
The OVA, yeah.
Why is that listed as the sequel then on Mount? Never mind. Whatever.
So maybe it's a sequel.
Anyways,
Okay, I have a question. This is like maybe I was being dumb, but also I feel like they didn't demonstrate what happened well enough because the scene confused the hell out of me. So when
Okay.
she spills the water on the table
With the
Mhm.
scale. Yep.
with the scale, it was did like
I was confused a little bit. I thought it was at first going to be that the scale was weighted, which I
okay,
think it
yeah.
was, or that the table
No,
was slanted.
the table was tilted. That's what it was. So she spills the
Yeah.
water, and then like the water is supposed to like
If it's flat.
is
yeah.
it's like moving. So it wouldn't move if it was flat. But like the way that they animated it didn't really feel like an unnatural movement of the water for me.
Right. No, I
And she
get
was
that.
talking about being drunk, but that was her just being like, "Oops, I'm drunk. I'm so silly. I'm knocking over this water." But I kept on looking to see if the water was like actually secretly like wine. But then I was like, "How would Hollow not know it's wine?" I got really confused. But it was that the table was tilted.
We got
Well,
there.
because they also talk. Lawrence chimes in and is like, "Oh, well, you must be getting people drunk to do easier business with them too." Like they were really leaning into it, like to try and I guess to give him an out Is that what they were trying, like an out wink wink, but like
I thought it
not
was like, since they caught him with one thing, they were just gonna pile on stuff, true or not, in order to put
mm,
as much possible pressure on him as they could. No, that was my read of it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was feeling too.
either way, it wasn't very clear what happened because we clearly had to discuss it, and if three of us couldn't figure it out entirely on our again, I saw it and I was like, okay, the table's tilted, cool, that makes sense. That may, but like also he made a whole deal about like picking which scale and asking which did you bring your own scale, blah blah blah, like was that not, and they already, you could tell that the two of them knew something was going on, so like why didn't they just call him out there? I guess their whole goal was to get him to agree to credit them all this stuff. I don't know. It was definitely a little convoluted.
I think it was like okay, so he's like thinking about which scale to use, right? And then he like
He used
goes to
the other
use
one.
the correct scale, right? And so like the thought is like, okay, did Lawrence's like showing that he's like the same religion as him get him to use the like not weighted scale? And so, but the guy has like the plan in order to like sort of make a show of which scale he's going to grab, says something agreeable, grabs like the good scale or whatever, but then has like the secret plan B way to like screw them over, which is that the table is tilted. And then Hollow figures it out, or Lawrence, they both figure it out somehow. In the manga, Lawrence figures it out. I think in the show, Hollow figures it out.
I feel like it's like they both do, but Hollow acts on it type of thing.
Yeah,
They
so
like gave
she
each
like
other the look. They're like,
yeah.
huh, like should I do
So
this? Like, yeah, let's do it.
so she spills her water to demonstrate that they're aware that the table is tilting, but they're like kind of playing dumb, but at the same time threatening him.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but
And then he gives them a bunch of deflated goods, and they get fucked anyway.
Yep.
okay. Yeah. Either
Don't worry,
way.
I kind of had a hard time with it too. Like I don't know, I don't know like a ton about economics or anything, and then like sometimes they would just be like, okay, so this gold is minted, and that means that the tariff on it is lower than the non-minted gold. But to get the gold minted, you have to import it and pay the tariff, which goes to the church. And I was just like, what?
That's
Like,
what
why do I need to know
Preston
this?
messaged me. It's like, hey, why does this coin worth more than this coin? I was like, well, let me explain how supply and demand works.
Well, that one was just like the amount of raw material in the
Correct.
coin,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. I can figure that one out. It's like I got that one.
Hey, some people never taken an economics class before. So if you're out there
Um,
and want to learn about economics, watch Spice and Wolf.
They should have
I
put the coins in water to see how much water was displaced, because that would.
what? No, that's not how that would work at all. Well, that would work in theory, but then what if the coin is mixed with other materials as
You would
well,
just
like
find out
zinc or
whatever the. Oh yeah, true. I guess you would have to presume. Then you try to melt the coin in order to.
And they talk about
they
that.
do in the show. They do.
Yeah.
in the show.
But it's not feasible at the time, is what they said.
It'd just be like a really painstaking process to figure out the like validity of how pure this silver coin is. It's just like, or we can just say it's this worth this much, and everyone's like, sure. It is whatever people think it's worth.
It
Yes.
one of the things that I actually really liked about the show was also like just the overarching story about how like business back in those days before laws were put in place was so cutthroat. Like there were contracts there in order to keep people honest, but even then it just didn't. And it was like just seeing how honestly I can see I felt kind of the same way about when I was selling cars because it's like other salesmen would like undercut me or if I would set a schedule like somebody else would swoop in and get my appointment. Like it's that type of thing. And surprisingly I really enjoyed it even though I hated that job. So
Sales is a game of knowing your worth and knowing what you're selling. It's definitely relatable. I agree, Kat.
I thought
Not
it was in terms of like the business side and how the wealth is so unevenly distributed where the church owns so much that when Lawrence was talking about how much money it would cost to get like a brick and mortar store, it's just like he needs to save or hit like a jackpot essentially to get a brick and mortar store that like I guess it's kind of like now we're like the 1% of the people own 90% of the wealth, and you can kind of see that like how the church just controls everything that's going on. And I thought that was like a really interesting way of showing the displacement of essentially wealth and just trying to get started, and like the length that Lawrence has to go to be a merchant in this time to I mean he doesn't even have a home. He just stays in the inn depending on which town he goes to. And I found that like fascinating, to be honest.
Yeah, I did too. It's kind of like it was definitely one of those things that like a lot of other shows don't touch upon when it comes to like traveling merchants and stuff like that. Like for example, like what Konosuba, like just they didn't really touch upon like stuff like that. Then again, that's a comedy show,
Yeah, I
but
think it's a little different, but I see what you're saying.
yeah,
They actually kind of get around on economics in Konosuba in order to keep Kazuma poor most of the time.
I mean that's true.
Definitely not as in depth, but some stuff happens.
No, for sure.
He gets rich quick, and then it's like, oh well, you got to sell it now because you have to pay for the walls that you destroyed. Or
Yeah, it's like
oh yeah, here's your house, but it's also haunted, by the way. Or no, you need to pay off the debt for it, or something. I don't know what it was, but
Yeah.
I don't know what else did we really like about this show. I think that's worth talking about because I mean, we already touched on Hollow and Lawrence's relationship. I think that or their I don't know their banter or whatever. I think animation wasn't really anything to talk about. Feels like for the time it was fine, but even then, like any fight, anything close to a fight scene or movement scene was pretty kind of rough, honestly.
Yeah.
It was very sounded nice. I have to say, I like the music a lot in the show, but yeah, not the prettiest of shows, even for an older
I,
one.
I think it really shined with I so I guess the best way to put it is that I think they did a good job of emphasizing more of the interpersonal relations and the sound rather than focusing like having to rely on a lot of that visual aspect of things just because like it like even other shows that are interpersonal and focus a lot on dialogue they can rely a lot on visuals to kind of get some of those gags, but like I didn't find a lot of that in the show, and it helped it a lot.
Especially if you
Yeah,
watch season 2, it's like a year after season 1 and they switch studios, and you can see the night and day difference of what a bad studio versus a good studio is. It's kind of I do think that this is the type of show where the animation really doesn't matter. It's more of like the conversation and the dialogue is what matters in this show, and if you like that, you're gonna like the show. I think if this was like Demon Slayer style quality, it would still people would still rate it roughly the same. I don't think it really matters, but it's just really interesting seeing starting season 2 right afterwards and being like, oh, it can look good.
mm. It does have that one thing though, where like Hollow definitely shows off her like the fact that she's a wolf, I guess. You know, like randomly, like you'll see her ears twitch under her
Mhm.
cap or her tail wag, whatever. Like there's little things like that that which to be fair should probably be expected of a show, you know? Like it should be expected that they include stuff like that, but give 'em credit where it's due that it was part of it, you know, and it was noticeable. I really enjoyed it when she like would, you know, he'd start talking about I don't know, alcohol, and she'd start wagging her tail because she wanted some or something. Like I don't know, whatever else. Or he starts teasing her and she knows, uh, something like that. I thought it was pretty good.
I have something to talk about that I thought was cool that it's touched on like briefly, and I think we're getting a little bit of hints of it later in the story, but more of like the folklore of Spice and Wolf. And when we see the people's reaction to Hollow turning into her wolf form, it's not like they're seeing the second coming of Christ or something like that, where they're just like, holy shit, it's a giant wolf. Like they may have seen it before. I want to get your guys' thoughts on like, did that like take away anything from you? Where like their reactions to seeing like this 20-foot wolf being just like, yeah, they were scared and everything, but kind of like the idea that something like a hollow for a different, since she's like the god of harvest or whatever, like the other gods in that folklore maybe existing in this world. Does that do anything for you or not?
I that kind of stirred a lot of my like intrigue about the world because it like so that one wolf that Hollow ends up stopping to like basically
Hmm.
talk to in order to like in
She
order
bends the
to
knee.
yeah. Um like that's a really interesting thing. Like I I want to see more of that dynamic and want to see like more like deities and just like interpersonal relations and more of Hollow's side of how things work there. I mean, merchantry and like and peddling is fun, but like that's really interesting. That is that looks really fun.
Yeah, I kind of didn't like uh so there was another giant wolf in like the 11th or 12th episode,
Yep.
12th or 13th, I guess, where she kind of is like, yeah, I hate you young people, or I hate young wolves. You're kids these days, blah blah blah. And then it just cuts away and it's like, oh, she took care of it. Like, doesn't give us any idea what she did.
Well,
Like, did she
they explained that.
do they?
Yeah, so she essentially like bends the knee to the other wolf to let them go. Like Hollow is acknowledging that other giant wolf is like the alpha.
Of the territory. Okay, so
That's
that's what
like
it
the
was. Okay.
agreement. Yeah.
I didn't really understand like what, like, but yeah, so is that other wolf, is that God? Is that just another like wolf that happens to be gigantic and is in the area? Like, I didn't really, I didn't put too much thought into it because it didn't matter or felt like something that would eventually be explained. But there were moments where I don't know, when they did try to do the folklore explanation stuff, I kind of was like, you're not giving me enough to keep me hooked or to keep me wondering it myself. Like, I was more getting frustrated by the teasing than actually enjoying it. I don't know. What do you think, Miles?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I don't like I just like sort of accepted that this world is like fantasy adjacent, and so like a giant wolf exists. Like wolves have like appear to have like a pretty like mystical, spiritual, like people are really concerned about wolves in this world, right? And so like I assumed the giant wolf was just like a way to make the wolf more like intimidating to fit like the lore and the fear that they had. I don't think I would expect to meet the god of whatever, like trees, um,
That would be
or
cool though.
bad harvests. Um, you know, um, like I guess I just like wouldn't expect that. I would expect it to just kind of be focused on Hollow and Lawrence, without like I think it would lose something if it like elevated itself like in that way. Like I don't I don't necessarily want to see any more of that. I don't know. Do we
I
end up seeing any more of that, Pete?
Uh so I'm only halfway through season 2, but they're
Mhm.
starting to get more into the folklore of the world. And so
Mhm.
that's why I wanted to see if you were intrigued because it does seem to be um getting towards that, I think.
I wouldn't mind learning more folklore. I just don't want to meet them. But you
Sure.
can learn. You know what I mean?
Like you like the idea that they exist, but you don't want to meet them in
Exactly.
person. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get
Yeah.
you.
I just think it'd be interesting. Like, I think I understand where Miles is coming from, where it's like I don't think I want to see like big wolf versus big wolf. I think it'd be interesting to see almost like a mercantile battle going on between Lawrence and Holo and like a another merchant or a set of merchants that are representing a god. That would be really interesting in my opinion. I think that'd be really fun.
So it has been announced that there is a new project coming for Spice and Wolf, whether that is season 3, whether that is a remake, maybe they get to Fruits Basket type of thing. There's also a sequel light novel based around their child. If we
Okay.
were to get another project, let's say for this scenario, it's a remake. What would you want to see in the remake? Maybe that's like up to terms in today's storytelling that you would remove from what you watch from this. Like, do you want Chloe in the remake since she's an anime original?
I, what did Chloe do?
They
Uh,
turned him in. Like,
Yeah,
it,
like okay, sorry, I understand that, but like, I guess like let me rephrase that to be like, was Chloe there to like have him like cutting ties with that like town? Was that like his purpose? Or like I guess like because his whole thing was that he was like traveling around and everything. Chloe wants to like marry him or whatever and like have little babies and like have a shop.
settle
Um,
down. Yeah.
yeah, and then like I guess like one, I never really got the sense that Chloe was like I'm a little bit confused how Chloe went from like where she was to like secret church assassin. I'm not saying like I liked Chloe's character. He probably should have just like picked Chloe. But like I guess if they keep Chloe, I would love to see it expanded upon. But because it's anime only, I imagine that it'd be cut if it's a remake. Which I think is fine because I liked Chloe like conceptually, but I really don't think you needed Chloe. I don't think that did anything really.
so Miles, since you were probably the most not positive on the show, what would you want to see in like a remake then that you didn't like from the original?
I would ruin it if I did it. I
I
like
would take
I
everything that people loved about it and change it all.
yeah, like I think that like I, I don't know. Like it's no fault of Spice and Wolf that I don't like it. It's just that the relationship between the two is just like in my opinion, it's like not done poorly or anything. And like in 2008 maybe it was like spicy and new, but like it's a pretty common dynamic and like it doesn't bring anything fresh to it, which maybe makes sense because it's 2008, right? So
Hmm.
like before I watched this, I watched the 57 things that copied it, but that's what my viewing order was. So like to me Hollow is just like another in a line of this sort of very tropey like kind of life,
But
Gotcha.
like,
right?
if
Like
well, I was just gonna say, like, what is what is if Spice and Wolves were to come out today, like, what makes it different? What makes it other than the economic part, right? But like, what makes it actually stand out and like
Adult
actually
cast.
become adult cast?
That's
You're
one
right.
of them.
Okay, that is the one of the main reasons probably why Hollow as a waifu has survived for so long, right? Beyond the fact that she's also a half wolf, whatever. So she gets the bestiality points, whatever you want to say. I'm joking, but I'm
Oh
not.
no, not for me.
Unfortunately,
Those are
no.
huge points for me.
Okay. No, but, like, what would a remake how would today's technology allow for the show to be any different or any better, really, is what I would say, because it's not like something that has, like, a glaring writing issue, like, let's say, like, SAO with pacing
Uh-huh.
or, I don't know, what else has gotten, like, remakes or even
Well,
close to
okay,
the
so the light novel is like beloved. It has like a 9 on Mal. So is it possible when we saw the Fruits Basket remake go from, a pretty solid shoujo anime to now maybe like the staple in shoujo anime? I don't know if like this is going to I think it has like the potential to be like, the light novel standard of shows if it's based off like what the ratings are telling us. Whether that's true or
Yeah.
not, I don't know, but it seems like people really like the novel of Twice.
So this goes back to what I was saying earlier with about the show and how like it focused a lot more on the interpersonal relations rather than the visuals of it. I think that a lot of the stuff that we're missing. I haven't read the light novel, so I don't really know. But I think that we were probably missing a good amount of the visual stuff, like that would have helped us like contextualize a lot of the things that were going on. And I think that if they did remake it and added a lot of that stuff in, it probably would get that uh, what's it called, fruits basket treatment personally, because I think it would elevate it to, instead of it being like Miles said, just another himdare like anime, to being a like what Pete said, light novel staple.
I think what I would like to see is, from my understanding, we skip a lot of Hollow's backstory before she met Lawrence. We kind of know that she's, unintended, a lone wolf in a lot of aspects. I think it'd be really interesting to see the dynamic of the two after that they do become a couple and they have an established relationship, especially when Hollow gets pregnant and has their kid. I think that would be a really interesting take on how they adapt this story, because instead of it going from, town to town, merchant to merchant type of thing, it adds a new dynamic to um their relationship. And I think what people gravitate a lot to in the story is the dynamic between these two, and it focuses on them and not the trading aspect of Lawrence and what he does as well. So that, I think that's what I would want to see from like a remake, and just like skip some of the economics and more of the interpersonal stuff.
That's interesting because I was thinking that like maybe if they explained their schemes and stuff more, and like it's set the world and like the economic um landscape of like the world, like why is everyone so freaking cutthroat, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
is there an economic crisis that's ongoing for like everyone? How's that affecting thing, like sort of do that, and then like how they can play on, and then like maybe like a little more of a goal than like starting his own shit, like, because like if he's just trying to start his own shop, why is he taking these massive risks, you know what I mean? So like sort of different motivation there, because like you could eventually get to your shop through incremental gains, and it's not like he does like a terrible job of that, right? So there's no need to take everything out on like leverage yourself as much as he did. um
Maybe you do
but
though. I feel like maybe you have to in that world. I do think it's kind of
that's what I'm saying. That's so like explaining
exploit.
that,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
in
yeah,
like
yeah,
in like setting that world, like doing the like the economic world building,
yeah.
because like I'm not gonna lie, like and I get the relationship between Hollow and Lawrence is like the draw to the show, right? Like that's why it's like the fun and the witty banter, and it's like all there, and it's all very good. But like I don't know, maybe this is like blasphemous to me, like the thought of like getting Hollow pregnant and like having her stay at home and like raise a kid is like it like kills all joy that I suspect that character, like,
Yeah.
like she's like this like wild wolf, like demigod thing that is like, you know what I mean? And just like I was like, oh, now she's a housewife, like
Well, it'd be like with Mai and and what's his name? Sakta from freaking Bunny Girl, right? Like imagine if the two of them settled down, how much less fun it would be versus them actually like solving mysteries. Like I view the dynamic between the two of them pretty similarly, between the two couples, I would say, because like the
Mhm.
way that they talk, basically they talk shit to each other's face and like kind of like flirt, but indirectly. I thought that I don't know that the whole time I was thinking like how similar the characters are, or their relationships are maybe, and
I
I don't know. Like I think it would be hard for them to actually have like Mai just sitting around doing nothing. And I agree with you though that like yeah, like Hollow just sitting around and being a parent, like I don't know, it's just fucking boring.
It's just something
Like
that's like
I
not
don't
like in media. Like a lot of times when like other than
I
like
wonder
Clannad
why.
after story or something like that, like when it gets to that point, it stops. I feel like the dynamic between Lawrence and Hollow could make that fun, especially
yeah,
seeing cute wolf girl that goes a woo really resonates with a lot of people, and a lot of people is me.
I think that one of the things about the show, like I think we're assuming that if they have a kid and Holo settle and Lawrence and Holo settle down, I think we're assuming that it's going to be boring. I don't think it's I don't think it's going to be that boring because we've got to like thinking about how cutthroat the world is. It becomes a more it becomes like littered with a little bit more strife and a little bit more care that needs to be taken into account. I think that this would become a lot more of a through uh, I guess a much more dimensional story where things are getting expanded upon left and right rather than just they settle down they I don't think it's gonna be a what's it called a pizza store in another world type of thing like you know what you know the anime I'm talking about like I don't think
Do
it's
I?
gonna be like that.
If he
I there's
doesn't
only
know it, I don't know it. So
uh
no, I get what you're saying though. Yeah, like it
well
wouldn't
no
it wouldn't be
Menace
the
to the
worst
shop
thing
in
ever.
another world that's what like I think that it would become a lot more uh I think it would become a lot more interesting rather than just being like Polo in a rocking chair with Lawrence manning the shop. I don't think it. I think it would be a. I think it would be a lot more dramatic, personally.
Hear me out. Lawrence, he's got this merchant brain. Like, he can't stop thinking about making money. So he has a kid, and that switches something for his, like, now I need to conquer the diaper market. And he becomes a diaper merchant. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, there's the realm of possibilities of fatherhood is endless for Lawrence's merchant brain. I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if I'm spitting. I don't know if I'm on something or onto something, but I
At
think
some point, he just becomes like a bad dad, right?
a,
Like if he
a
spec
horrible father.
if he like speculates their entire family well, like if he keeps being him, right? And he's like, okay, I maxed out my credit cards to buy this material in hopes that it will go up over the next 2 months while I have interest free.
These
Like,
beauty products that I can
yeah,
sell to others
exactly.
to
Yeah,
other
and it's
people.
like,
Pyramid scheme stuff.
Yo, if we Lord should start a Ponzi scheme in season 3. Straight up, he's got the brains
yeah,
for it.
maybe I don't know. Like, I guess like to me, what I was just trying to say is that like I hate the idea of Hollow ever being confined to like a housewife role because she's supposed to be like a god. Like, there's nothing wrong with being a housewife. It's just like so mundane though, comparative
It's
to
my
like
dream.
being the god of an abundant harvest. Like,
Yeah,
it's
No, for sure. Yeah.
I agree. All right. I think one last really like talking point before we get to our closing thoughts. Do you think Lawrence pulls on her tail during sex?
Yes, obviously
I'm
he's
not
got
answering
to.
that question. Of
I
course he
think they
does.
used a I think they used a turkey baster to
They
conceive.
used the turkey baster. Oh my god, we're coming all the way around for this one. Yeah, that was. I figured that question was important to say for last. Yeah, let's talk about that kind of stuff. Let's do our closing thoughts now. I think, and then our final scores. Miles, why don't you start us off?
Sure. I get why people like this show. The banter is fun. It's fun. I get it. Hollow's fun. Isn't she so great? I don't know if I was just like in a bad mood or something. I do get Hollow like the appeal slightly more based on like from reading the manga versus like having it like acted, right? Like it definitely adds to her mystique, which is good. The I guess like this sounds so stupid. I wish they'd explained the economics more. Like you can definitely over explain some stuff, but I feel like tariffs or something that like maybe you could go a little more in depth on to make sure that your audience has it. Like, I'm pretty sure I understood most of it, but also I'm not completely sure if I did. Like, I didn't realize he was taking the weapons out on credit. I thought it was like a payment that he got, and he got it paid in goods as opposed to like buying them from someone.
I thought the same, so I don't
Yeah.
blame you. Yeah.
Um, and so I was a little confused why he owed anyone money. I was like, oh, he just didn't make any money, as opposed to owing someone money. But or like, did he buy a contract from some? I don't know. Who knows? But like, I would have liked that more, a little more economic background to the world. I don't know. It's a pretty fun show. I'm gonna I can't decide. I'm between a 6 or a 7. What was the show 2 shows ago? What did we do? It was
Uh, we, we did Higurashi, and then Real Life.
Real Life. Okay, I was not a hater for Real Life. I rounded up on Real Life, but around down on Spice and Wolf. I'll give it a 6.
Love it.
I liked Real Life more than Spice and Wolf, so
Me
Yeah,
too.
that's why you gave it an 8 instead of a 7, right?
I gave it a 7
Or
instead of a
6.
6.
You gave Real
Real
Life a
Life?
7? I thought you gave it 8.
Oh, I gave it an 8. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
you
I gave
did.
Higurashi a 7.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, no, I was gonna say I was looking at it right here and I wrote it down, so it must be
Mhm.
right, right? But yeah, all right. Next up, Kat, what about you?
I thoroughly enjoyed Spice and Wolf. Won't go too in depth on my like final thoughts. I thought that a lot of the banter was really enjoyable. I didn't really have too many questions about like economic stuff because I more or less just kind of assumed that they were right and just went
Yeah.
along with it. And when I did have questions, I kind of went back and watched because I actually gave myself enough time to watch it. But yeah, I I thoroughly enjoyed it. The one thing that I'm kind of critical on is the visual stuff because it is very slideshowy at times, and it's not exactly the greatest quality in the world. But even with that, I thoroughly enjoyed the dynamics and the way that the story unfolded, and that's why I'm giving it a 9.
Wow. Higher than I
And
thought.
Pete, I was expecting an 8 from based off what you just said, but you know what?
Me
I
too.
respect. I
Uh,
respect it.
One thing I really liked about Spice and Wolf is that I was always looking forward to like what they were going to do next. I thought the intrigue of just like the world that these two can kind of venture into and solve whatever problems that they run into was a huge like plus for me. Like Pat said earlier, I also watched the dub, which I thought was fantastic. I thought Hollow's VA was incredible. Just an overall really good time as somebody who's like, I mean, I like I said earlier, I majored in finance. Like I like these type of like scenarios in stories and problems and stuff like that. It was just I think this was just like made for me, to be honest. I started watching season 2 as soon as season 1 finished for me. I'm hooked. I can definitely just see the quality in season 1 into season 2, which kind of a little affected my score, but I think I would have gave it the same thing anyway. But I can just say that if you're a fan of season 1 and you haven't seen season 2, I would definitely recommend it. It is a huge jump in quality. I'm gonna give it an 8. I really enjoyed Spice and Wolf.
Okay, I feel like this was made for me. 8 out of 10.
I mean, it has its problems, but like on the
I
surface, it's like it's there.
No, I get where you're coming from. Last but not least, my real I don't know. I think the only really big thing that we didn't talk about much was the very ending of this. The arc itself finishes, and it kind of doesn't really feel like the end of a season. It feels more like the end of like
halfway through a
arc
season.
or halfway through a season.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I
it
got. I felt that.
yeah, like it didn't really feel like I was like, oh, and is that it? Like really? Like we're done here? I was pretty annoyed by that. But the rest of the show I really enjoyed a lot. Again, we've talked about Hollow and Lawrence's dynamic. I think it's fantastic. It completely makes the show for me. I don't know. I think I was stuck somewhere between a 7 and an 8, and then it occurred to me that I really wanted to keep watching, even though I wasn't obligated to. So I think that that for me means that I'm gonna round it up to an 8 out of 10, which brings our average score for Spice and Wolf a 7.75 based off of my math. Yeah, so that's a little bit lower than the Mal score of an 8.23. I think it makes sense. Again, I think anywhere between like a 7 and an 8 is pretty like normal given what our scores for other shows and things that we've talked about in the past. But yeah, so I think that that wraps up our discussion on Spice and Wolf,
Wait,
which
did you
means
say a 7.75 or a 7.5?
7.75.
Okay,
7.75.
cool.
Yes, that is what I have. So yeah, why don't we move on to what we're watching for our April Fool's episode, which is going to be all right. Based on you're gonna hear the nominations and the shows that we voted on. You're gonna wonder what's wrong with us, and because we wanted to watch something awful. So Miles, what are we suffering through for April 3rd?
Yeah. Okay. So For legacy points, you know what? I'm just going to be as generous with legacy points as I can because none of these shows are getting nominated again.
Good point.
Uh,
Oh, I like that. That's true.
so it'll make next year more interesting should it happen. So in third, we have Don't Hurt Me, My Healer and ZX Ignition, both shows that I voted for. And in second, we have School Days. And in first, we had a tie. The tie was between Bang Dream and Love of Kill. And then we flipped a coin, and we're going to be watching Bang Dream.
Woo!
Which is
Yay.
stupid.
It is unfortunate.
You-
I think
We
our
could be
discussion-
watching New Moon right now, but instead we're watching Bang Dream, and that's on you.
we
I
prefer
just
that.
like
I would rather watch Bang
like
Dream
honestly,
than
and Galaxy, you'll hear this. You better fucking show up. You understand this? You better watch this goddamn show. And you better show up because it just like to me, this show just feels like it's going to embody a 5 or a 6, but it's not going to be unique or bad in any special way. It's gonna drag on. It's gonna be stupid, and we could it's just bad Love Live.
Isn't
Maybe
it
they'll
a
give music.
music?
It'll be great. I don't know. Well, I played their little game, the little gotcha game. I used to play some Bang Dream, the rhythm game, and I wasn't a big Poppin' Party fan, which is the group that season 1 is about. So let's find out.
Isn't it CG? Isn't like the series CG?
I mean, their performances will be.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm not entirely sure. It's like it might be like a Zombieland saga.
The show is the first, I'm pretty sure, the first show we are watching that does not have a genre. There is no genre on Mal.
It's not even music.
That's the theme.
Oh my! So their music is so bad it can't even be considered a genre. Yeah, they play instruments, but it's not music.
This studio too has done almost nothing but sports anime.
Yo, shout out to
And
Brian though. I think this is his favorite anime of all time.
Okay, well, let's get
He also
Brian
did,
on.
he also did a cover of the OP, and it's fantastic. I might use it as our intro for next episode.
That part I believe because he's very talented.
Ba, ba, ba,
but,
ba, 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 ba.
that sounds like a different show.
That is a
but hey,
different
what do I
show, but
know?
he did that cover as well.
Yeah. That sounded like
That's Orisuke.
Ariski,
Yeah.
from that was a great OP. I'm sure it was
Yo,
better
shout out to
than this one.
Brian and all his
Shout out
covers.
Brian. Yeah, seriously.
Very sweet.
Yeah. On YouTube, we'll link it in the description.
I'm gonna see if I can use this song from the intro.
You should try. No,
I mean,
seriously,
I could
why
just do
not?
it. Yeah, I'm sure he's cool with it.
Yeah, always. Well, you should pay him for it, but sorry. Let's talk about what we're doing for our next watch club. So what we're voting on, these will be back to normal shows. I say normal as if, Bang Dream isn't one of the normal ones we'd vote on. But yeah, so let's talk about what we'll be watching on April 17th, or at least would be watching, but we'll probably be watching a little bit earlier, actually.
We will be watching it earlier because I will be going to Japan. I'll be in Japan for 2 days on the 17th.
And well, welcome to Japan, Safato. So yeah, we'll figure that out on our own. But yeah, so what are we nominating? We're gonna only have a few shows to nominate. Pete, why don't we start with you, since I'm pretty sure I know what you're nominating.
Guess what's getting the legacy point, boys? We're nominating a link click.
Unless it gets 4th place, then it won't get a legacy point.
True, but you will all have to vote for it in this round of voting.
That is true. That is true. There are 4 of us here, 3 of which have to vote for it. So it's guaranteed 3 points at
That's
least.
what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I like that. Very clever, Pete. That's good work. Miles, what have you got?
Yeah, I was very prepared and definitely have a show that I have picked to watch. That show, of course, is forthcoming.
Spice and Wolf Season 2.
Yeah, fuck it. The show is Spice and Wolf Season 2.
No, I was gonna do that.
Too bad, cat.
Okay.
Oh, you're
really?
actually doing it. Okay.
Yeah, because
no,
I have no idea. So Spice and Wolf.
Miles has an excuse for not having a show right now.
Yes, I
That
did
is
have
fair.
quite the day.
But also, that means I don't have a show.
You gotta come prepared, my man.
I did.
You've done this for 3 years. 3
You
years.
should know that sometimes I steal your shows.
You have done it before, so I think you should know that by now. You're right.
Okay, so Kat's doing Kaijo.
Yeah, this isn't the April
No.
Fool's episode anymore, bro. Oh, and Pat can, if you want to nominate stuff, you can do stuff from the currently airing season because by the
That's what I
time
was just.
it'll be
By the time-
done
By this time, it will be done. So that's what I was looking at right now, actually.
for most shows.
Yeah. Ooh, it would be really fun to roast Tomo-chan, wouldn't it? Because like
Tomo-chan
it's
is
really good.
fantastic. It is a fantastic show. I will die on that hill. It is so good.
7.66 really screams fantastic.
Yeah,
That's like a whole point higher than
I will talk about it in my review. The Ri Takahashi as Tomo is the best VA performance of
Shikamori.
It's better than Shikamori. It's so much better
Yes,
than Shikamori.
of course, everything's better than Shikamori.
You know Shikamori doesn't
Bang-
have that Tomo does? Carol. Because Carol rocks.
Bang Dream is
Carol is
higher
amazing.
rated than Shikamori.
Will the Angel Next Door be done by then?
Yeah,
Or did
I'll
that
be
one
honest with you,
delayed?
Pat, though. It'd be really fucking boring to talk about.
Would it? Okay,
Like,
so it's literally
really
just this guy
boring.
gets spoiled for no reason. Like this girl just spoils a guy because he exists.
For as much as I like the show, it would be boring to talk about.
Yep. All right, so you just said what I just said, except without
Except
insulting
I
the
said
show.
it.
I respect. Except you didn't insult the show by saying what I said. That's fair. No, but that's, you know what? Fair enough. I know what I'll do. I'll do Inspector season 1 because season 2 is going to be wrapping up by then, and maybe then it'll get nominated because I really enjoyed season 1. I know a lot of people didn't, but
I dropped it.
found I know you didn't give it very long, but
I give it like 8
Uh,
episodes.
no,
I could tell you right now how many episodes I watched.
he gave it 3 guys. That's
I watched 6.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't blame
Go
you.
on my mouth.
I
It is
get-
recorded.
I get why people don't like it, but I thought
So,
that show was
so we're
really
doing
interesting.
Inspector.
Yep.
Yep, Inspector.
Fun.
Okay. So for me, I think that I am going to go with the Vampire Dies in No Time season 1.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Because I haven't seen it, and I keep hearing in our Discord that it's great. So might as well.
I've
won't-
heard good things about it.
Yeah. Yeah, John was nominated for our best boy 2 years ago. He is a armadillo. So
Okay,
I'm
Surely
you,
he's
you got my
great.
first place vote there, Kat, for sure.
Let's go.
You
You're
got
not
one
gonna
of
do
my
Spice
votes
and Wolf
too.
season 2 because you already have progress made on it.
I'm like halfway through season 2, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why you should vote for it first.
I might, just because I want to talk about it, but I also haven't seen The Vampire Dies in No Time, and I want to watch something I haven't.
All right, well, I think that wraps up Watch Club for the week. Thanks for dicking around with us at the end
Yeah, that
here.
was fun.
Yeah, that was good. Even shorter cast today, but hey, we had fun, and now we've got to not vote for link click. So Pete, why don't you close us out?
Yeah, and if you want to vote for link click, the best way to do so is if you want to support us, the best way to do so, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you're watching or listening to us on. Next week is the winter review for what shows will be completed by then. It's only the majority of it. There's a few that will still be outstanding, but I will hopefully get at least like 90% of the shows in there for that review. Otherwise, if you are here for Watch Club in 2 weeks, we will see you for Poppin' Party Bang Dream, baby. We will see you then. Take care.